I'm JP Sears. Today I say, let's talk about rejection together. How can you overcome your fear of rejection? And also, how can you heal the hurt of the rejections you've been through? I'd also ask you to, I'd also invite you to consider, how does your fear of rejection limit your life today? What kind of opportunities does it stop you from even approaching? What kind of people, relationships, and scenarios does it stop you from connecting with? So in other words, how do we actually inflict suffering on our lives by being afraid of rejection when we're trying to avoid the suffering of rejection? It's pretty interesting. Reason why we're talking about this today is I've had just a flood of questions and inquiries coming into me very recently about rejection. So that told me two things. One, told me I'm not the only one that has fear of rejection. Yay! Misery loves company, and so does freedom. It also tells me it's just simply time to talk about this. So let's be human. Let's allow ourselves to realize we have fear. We all fear rejection. Just what degree, what intensity is it affecting my life today? Am I paralyzed, or am I doing okay with it? My experience is when we're in the place of fearing rejection, what we're really trying to do is avoid re-experiencing a very painful event we've been through. So if you kind of bend back into time with me for a moment and imagine there was a time and place when you and I were connected to someone, maybe mom, dad, brother, sister, family, friends. We were connected to someone. And then something happened. We were blindsided. All of a sudden, that connection was taken away as we perceived we were being rejected. And we were left with something, the feeling of rejection. For me, the feeling of rejection, it's a feeling that carries the message, I am not good enough. So we were connected to someone, people, whoever, and then, boom, we were surprised. And we were left feeling alone, probably, and like, I am not good enough. I am not good enough the way I am, and that's awful. It's very overwhelming. So here we are, when we're operating today out of fear of rejection, we're looking to avoid that. So what we actually do, we become what we are most afraid of. What we're most afraid of is the rejecter. So we become that without even knowing it. JP, how do we become that? Well, thank you for asking that question, alter ego number one of mine. How we become the rejecter is we reject people, we reject opportunities, we reject new experiences when we're afraid of rejection before they even come into our lives. We reject anybody who has the potential to reject us. So we have actually started to embody exactly what we fear most. We become the rejecter. That's pretty interesting. So that we can protect ourselves from feeling that just horrendous overwhelm of, I'm not good enough. So everybody, I keep them at arm's length. You can't reject me if I don't let you connect to me. So I reject everybody. That's pretty interesting. I'd like to, just comes to me, I'd like to share a little scenario of my rejection amongst the various reasons why I still deal with fear of rejection today. I recall back when I was in the 7th grade, so I would have been 12 years old, and it was my first year of playing tackle football. So that's kind of cool, also kind of scary. For me, the real scary part was in practices when the 7th graders would have to go scrimmage the 8th graders. There was a big difference between 110-pound 12-year-old JP and the 13 and 14-year-old 8th graders. I mean, they just seemed twice as big as me. So I was a running back on the football team, and it just hurt like hell to be tackled by those bigger, older guys. What was even more painful than the hurt was it was simply scary to me. So anyway, there was one time in the middle of a scrimmage, I had just been getting demolished. So I was running with the ball, and right before I met one of the bigger, older guys who was about to just knock me silly, I hit the ground. I hit the ground before he had a chance to hit me. I didn't mean for it to turn out that way, but my fear just dove me into the ground so I could avoid this overpowering dude. Then the rejection set in. The older guy says, "I didn't even touch him," and everybody starts laughing at me, and I was just taken over by that. It felt like a searing heat with serrated broken glass going through me. Everybody in that moment knew I was afraid to get tackled. And what it meant to me when everybody was laughing at me and walking away from me is I'm rejected. I'm not good enough. So what did I do? Well, I learned to fear rejection. I went into a shell for 5 years. It wasn't until my senior year of high school before I even began to come out. And oddly enough, senior year in high school, that's when there's no older guys around. I am one of the oldest. So I became actually pretty darn isolated for the next 5 years. Looking back on it, I say, holy cow. Now I understand why I did that, why I would stay really withdrawn, why I wouldn't engage socially. I didn't want to go through that experience again of being rejected. You can't reject me if I reject you first. When we're blindsided by rejection, we are incredibly out of control. Out of control is another way of saying afraid. So when you and I are operating out of the fear of rejection, when we become the rejecter, what we do is we save ourselves from being blindsided. Yes, we're disconnected. Yes, we probably still operate with that feeling of I'm not good enough, yet we are in control. If we keep everybody away from us, if I reject you before you can reject me, then the one thing I do have is that sense of control. Avoid the shock of being blindsided. So it is painful when we believe other people are rejecting us. Yet I'm going to ask you to challenge yourself on that. What if you found out the deeper pain, the pain that we have in our heart, the pain that causes us to freeze and be ruled by our fear of rejection is because in the heart of all rejection is we've rejected ourselves. We'd say, no, it was the other people that rejected me. My ex-spouse, they're the ones that rejected me. I won't argue with that. They probably did reject you, if that's your belief. But who was it that actually stuck the knife inside your heart? What if you found out you rejected you? So let's look back at 12-year-old JP laying on the football field. How did I reject myself in that moment? I actually sided with all the other guys. I essentially looked down at 12-year-old JP and said, screw you, you're not good enough for me. I rejected myself. I judged myself harshly. I'm not good enough. I owned everyone else's perception. I don't know if it was their perception. I was a scared, wimpy kid. That was my perception of what their perception was. But my betrayal of self is part of me owned that and said, screw you, JP. I'm out of your life. The pain of rejecting myself. Why did part of me do that? And why might part of you have done that? Consider this. When we have an enemy that's overpowering us, and of course, metaphorically, our enemy here, when we're dealing with rejection, is whoever it is that's rejected us. They're our enemy. So when we have an enemy that has more power than us, and of course we perceive the rejector has more power than us, hence they rejected us. They had that power. So we actually find a good defense. Good is a little bit of a misleading term here. We find a defense that allows us to unconsciously feel safer quicker when we join sides with the enemy. The enemy can't hurt me if I join their side. So that's why a part of us is so quick to reject us. Because we take on the beliefs and attitudes of the rejector. I see myself the way I see them seeing me. I do that because if I am part of the enemy, then they won't hurt me anymore. And it becomes a matter of I am hurting me. I am rejecting 12-year-old JP. It's deeply painful, yet it gives part of me a sense of control in a very acute, intense situation where I feel no control. So, as we're looking to how to overcome the fear of rejection, I would ask you to consider this. When we're still trying to escape our pain of rejection we've been through, we will actually shape our lives around avoidance, avoiding future rejection. So that tells us if we're still trying to avoid the pain of rejection from the past, I will certainly be trying to avoid present and future rejection. That's called the fear of rejection. So my call to action to you, it's really an invitation. No one can tell you you need to, or no one can tell you to do what I'm about to ask you to do, which is this. I'd ask you to pick one instant in your life where you perceived you were rejected. You're probably like me, where you've got dozens, if not hundreds, that you can think of, probably thousands that you can't think of. Pick one. One instant of rejection where you just felt that intense body sensation of I'm not good enough. And consider, who was it that rejected you? at least who you believe rejected you, and what was happening. So I ask you to go there in your mind first, so that you can then go there in your heart second. And how you do that, I'm going to ask you to revisit this situation of yours with as much feeling sensitivity as you can. Avoiding the feelings that were there and likely still are there to some degree. Avoiding those feelings means my life is run by fear of rejection. Here, taking some mindfulness and heartfulness to go into those feelings that we've been trying to run from and actually going towards them with open arms and saying, yes, I'm going to sit with you, feelings. I'm going to become 12-year-old JP, laying on the football field. People are laughing. I feel belittled. And instead of trying to escape the heat of the moment, like 12-year-old JP had to do, I'm going to do my best to feel the heat of the moment. Why would I want to do that? Well, I don't want to. Do I need to? It seems to be a higher calling here. Why might I need to? Why might you need to? Feeling our feelings is perhaps the only way to heal them. Feeling is the evidence of healing. So the unresolved, that 12-year-old JP still carries, that's a large generator of the electricity that registers in my present day life as fear of rejection. Does that make sense? We're looking to disperse, resolve, dissipate the root cause electrical charge that causes the symptoms of fear of rejection today. And I would also dare say this is simultaneously not just helping us resolve fear of rejection, it's also helping us heal our wounding of rejection, if that makes a little bit of sense. And I would also ask you to consider the mindset when you're working with your fear of rejection and your pain of rejections that have already happened. Is this: own your experience of yourself. Own it. Let other people own their perceptions of you. So when I feel rejected, when I feel afraid of rejection, my job is to, as consciously as possible, look at myself and tell myself what I think of me and what I feel about me. You probably hear my dog walking in the background. His abandonment issues are getting to him, so he wants my attention. So my job is to tell me what I feel about me. Because if I don't affirm what I mean to me and how I feel about me, I will have no choice but to be the unconscious 12-year-old JP who just takes on board what I think other people feel about me, therefore rejecting myself. So would you be willing to pay attention to yourself? Yes, this potential business partner that I've never approached because I've been too scared, they might reject me. This potential business partner, they might reject me. And if so, how will I feel about that? Okay, acknowledge that. And, dear JP, how will I feel about me? What are my beliefs about me? Not instantaneously fusing with the overpowering person's beliefs and I own them automatically. No. What are my beliefs about me? The only way we can avoid the deeper, true pain of rejection, which is rejection of self, is having a relatively solid sense of self in order for us to not just mimic the rejection that we believe other people are putting us through, if that makes a little bit of sense. So with that said, I hope this is a little bit of food for feeling to help you and hopefully to help me work with our fear of rejection. I would dare say if we can be afraid of rejection, we're doing pretty good. When we're afraid to be afraid of rejection, that's when we're sort of, no action is taken. I'll just live the same day over and over again because at least I'm in control and nobody can hurt me. But we give ourselves a little bit of a breath of fresh air when we can realize we're a human being. Yes, I will experience that icky feeling of I'm not good enough. But am I willing to feel the fear of that? If so, yay, you're functional. And if not, if I'm afraid to be afraid of rejection, then of course I am a slave to my avoidance of rejection. And if that's where you're at right now, please just notice that you are a slave. Notice the shackles, the chains around you, so you at least know you are in them, and so you can pay attention to the consequences of being in them. It is scary to move our feet and risk rejection. Some would say it's even scarier not to. Thank you for joining me today. Feel free to please subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to look forward to talking with you next time.